New year, new me, new year, new me. That's all you hear, right? New year, new me. Well, you know what? I like to say new year, same grief. Hey guys, before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to let you know that we've opened up for submissions. So if you have a story about loss, about healing, about your loved one that you lost, I'd love to hear it. And we might even feature it on a future show or maybe even have you as a guest on our show. So using the link in the description or any of the links in our bios on our socials, you can submit your story there. And I'm really looking forward to reading them. And thank you in advance for being vulnerable and open with me and sharing with me. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the My Mom Died podcast. I'm Gabri, and although I am sad that you are here, I am very happy that you're here. Quick disclaimer before we dive in. We talk about death. We talk about, grief, obviously. But I just want to remind you that, sometimes it's difficult to hear stuff like this when you're starting out your grief journey or if you're really new at grief. And so I just want to say that if you can't listen today, that's okay. You know where to find us in the link tree in our bios. Anyways, let's dive into today's episode. Everyone is writing resolutions, right? Everyone's like, 2026 is going to be the year of this for me. 2026 is going to be the year of this for me. And I think that's amazing. Obviously, goals are important. But I think when you're grieving, for me personally, I feel like I am stepping into yet another year without them and yet another year of my life moving further and further away from life with them. Like 2026 will be 4 years without my mom. She passed in 22, so 22, 22, 23, 24, 25. Is that 5 years? Okay, well, 5 years without my mom. That is such a wild concept to me that with each year, the new year has changed so drastically for me. I used to look back in my journals and always write down my goals for 2024, 25, 24. My goals for 2022 before my mom died. You read them and they're like, I don't know, buy a new car or get a promotion at work or I don't know, get a boyfriend. From my mouth to God's ears, that will happen. We'll see. But anyways, my point is that there's this huge shift that occurs when you lose someone and the new year just looks a lot different. It's not about goal setting. It's not about what you hope the new year will look like for you because you kind of already know what it's going to look like. Or it's heavy on your heart to think about okay, yeah, it's a new year, but it's not only a new year, but another year that I have to figure this out without. I don't know, dude. I just feel like the end of the year kind of sets a huge spotlight on everything that you lost, even though it was several years ago. It's almost sets a spotlight on the lack of healing you've done from your loss or the lack of moving forward you've done from your loss. And it instead of being a positive thing to move forward, I think for me, I think 2, maybe 3 years after loss, the new year really was just tough. It's really tough. And I don't think that people talk about it enough. The ball drops, you count down from 10. And instead of, being excited for the new year, wow, another year I have to spend without them. And it's really tough. It's really tough. And a lot of people don't talk about it enough. So, well, let's talk about it. I think it's an important thing to pause and look back on the year that you had. Whether it be good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, I think it's important that you do some reflection. So I'm going to do my own reflection with you right now. It's January. Okay, January, Los Angeles was on fire. Yeah, that was this year. Crazy, right? All of Los Angeles was on fire. I remember the fires happening and thinking to myself, I don't have insurance on my apartment, right? I'm in Sacramento for work. I don't have insurance on my apartment. LA's on fire. My whole gonna go up in flames. Okay, that's literally what I was thinking. And then I thought to myself, I don't know how to get insurance. I need to call my mom. Can't do that. So that was the first part of the year. It was just a sheer reminder that I still can't call her. The February, March, I don't even remember the whole year, to be honest. But what I can say is that it's important that you reflect on the year and think to yourself okay, how did grief hold me back this year? And how did grief move me forward this year? 'Cause those are two different things, but I think it's really easy. I talk about this often. It's really easy to like hone in on the negative pieces of grief and the negativity around, okay, grief continues to hold me back year after year. This is the way that it's holding me back. But I think that grief can really excel you forward too. And it's really important to look into that too. This past year, I did a lot of dating. We won't get into that, but I did a lot of dating. And I think grief and dating are like a whole nother concept that we should probably talk about another time. But it's interesting because I think grief specifically projected me forward so much because I was able to like really know my expectations of my partner and know my expectations of myself. And I grew into myself in a way that allowed me to date and like be very clear on my expectations of the dating too. But my whole point in this is I feel like a grief year can't be measured like a normal year. There's a lot of internal milestones that happen. There's a lot of progression in the quietness and the stillness and the loneliness of grief. There's pain that resurfaces in waves and not in timelines. And so I feel like when you're grieving year over year is very different than it is for somebody who doesn't know grief. Ask yourself, how did grief surprise you this year? Good, bad, or ugly? It's important to sit and do some reflections. Get your journal out, get a little pen out. If you're driving, don't do that. Maybe save this exercise for another time. I encourage you to like think about how grief has surprised you this year. How you survived something that you didn't think that you would. Like I think stepping into a new year can also be like really cool and exciting when you're experiencing grief, right? Like here's another perspective. You did it. You actually made it to 2026. That is should be celebrated. Okay? I think when I look back at the 25-year-old girl that lost her mom in 2022, we are now in 2026 and I'm 29 and I am so proud of myself. We're stepping into 2026 and I I feel for the first time in so long, I feel excited about the year ahead. 2025 was such a hard year, but what a beautiful year it was. Good things happened this year. I spent a lot of time by myself, which story for another time, but I spent a lot of time by myself, which really like gave me a newfound appreciation for myself. Be proud of yourself. 2026 is the year for you, baby. All right? And whether it be or not, like there's some things you can implement into your day to day that even though it might be a really negative year, or you might feel like it's going to be a negative year because it's the first year without your loved one, or even the 10th year, it's a milestone year for you. Like there are ways around it to make the year better. And here's a few that I want to give you. If you want to set yourself up for success in the new year, I think it's really important that you shift your mind to looking for happy things. I talk about this often and I will continue to talk about it, but it's important that you look for positive things. Because if you don't look for positive things, you're not going to find them, especially when you're down bad in the grief. The negativity is like around you like a cloud, right? You have to like look outside the darkness. It's like if it's constantly raining outside, well, at least the flowers are getting watered. You got to look for the positive things, okay? So do that every single day before I go to bed. I have a journal that sits next to my bed on my nightstand, and I write down one happy thing that happened that day. One. It's funny too because you'll see like a huge contrast. Like one day it'll be like, my coffee was great this morning. And then like the next day it'll be like, I bought a car. You know what I mean? It's like there's contrast in it. And it's crazy to think that like the good thing in that day is something so small in comparison to other days. But looking for positivity will rewire your brain in terms of grief in such crazy ways. And that'll really help set yourself up for success in the new year. Every year, it used to be every month. It went from every day to every month to now every year. I write a letter to my mom about all of the big milestone things that happened that year and all of the ways that she showed up for me that year, even though she isn't here. And as I continue to call those things out and as I continue to, yeah, I don't know, like think about the ways that she's shown up, it's easier to find her in things. Really, the things that I'm telling you to do are just shifting your brain to looking at the better things opposed to the darker things. Now, listen, I say this too. The light cannot come without the darker things. You know what I mean? And vice versa. Being in a dark place is okay if you're looking to get out of that dark place, which some people are not. And that's okay too. But if you're looking to get out of that place, you got to look for the positive things. Another thing about the New Year's that I feel like we need to cut out, especially as grievers, is the pressure to be healed by the top of the year. Everyone's like, oh, like I said, new year, new me, new year, new goals, new year. I'm going to shift this, and that. And I'm going to, there's this pressure that the new year has to reset everything in your life. We're not doing that anymore. I'm giving you permission right now to cut that out. Okay? It's time we cut it out. I think that there's also this like subtle shame that you're still sad. I think we talk about this often too. It's like, okay, Gabri, it's another year. It's now been 5 years. You're still sad? Yeah, brother, I'm still sad. Hey, newsflash, I have to live the rest of my life without my mother. If anything, another year in time actually makes it a little bit more hard. Half a decade? Yeah, I'm still sad. Duh. I feel like the new year adds pressure to that piece. Oh, it's another year. This is another year. You're still sad? Yeah, we're not doing that anymore. And if you're listening and you're here and you support a griever, I just want to say, don't say that to them ever. Let them be sad. If I'm not crying about this 30 years from now, then something's wrong. Okay? I also want to call out the toxic idea that happiness equals success. Okay? Like, you don't have to be happy to be successful. You don't have to not be grieving to find success in your day-to-day. That's another thing too. Getting through the day is successful. As you step into the new year and as you reset your expectations of yourself for the new year, like, understand that even if you have days that are darker than others and you have days that are not happy, days that are sad, even the past year, I've had several weeks of time where I was in a grief slump. I didn't leave my couch. 5 years in, I'm still having moments of doing nothing at all because I can't bring myself to do anything because I want my mom. But I find happiness and healing and success in that fact because I know what my body needs. And I can say that confidently. That's not something that I could have done years ago. So I want to say that, like, we need to nip in the bud that there's pressure to be healed by the top of the year, that there's shame to still be sad that this is a thing that's happening in your life. And like, we need to nip the toxic idea that happiness equals success. Enough. We're grievers. We're different. We're built different. Don't forget it. I want to give you a new definition of what success in grief looks like. Success in grief looks like choosing your truth over performance. I used to really feel like I needed to show up everywhere all the time, all at once, with a very specific face on. I say this often, but that was me performing strength. As we talk about goals and as we talk about the ways that we want to step forward for ourselves in the new year, it's really important that for me that I choose truth over performance. Hey, Gabri, you want to come to dinner? I'm not going to perform the strength. I'm going to say, no, actually, the truth is I'm having a really bad day today and I can't come. Like, thank you for your understanding. I'm not going to say that to a friend, but choosing the truth over performing in a certain way to people, feeling what you feel instead of suppressing it. I think as we rewrite the stigma around grief, I think it's really important that we, as grievers, set the expectation of what grief looks like for other people in our lives. And I think that especially other people that haven't been through grief. So if I am feeling what I feel and I'm not suppressing it, that's showing others that when they grief, when they hit a certain loss, that they can feel what they feel without suppressing it. My producer and editor the other day was like, let's record today. And I was able to be like, absolutely. Right? We both actually gave the conclusion, absolutely not. But I was able to feel what I felt. I don't suppress it all anymore. My colleagues, when we're out at a conference, oh, let's go out and have a few drinks. I'm not feeling it today, boys. I'm going up to the hotel room and I'm ordering DoorDash. Good night. Feel what you feel. Don't suppress it. I feel like a lot of the time when you are like nervous about feeling what you feel and you don't want to suppress it, it's interesting because you feel like people are going to judge you, or you feel like you're not going to like people aren't going to allow it, that's their own problem. That's not your problem. So, like, feel what you feel. Don't suppress it. Success and grief looks like recognizing your limits. Ooh, girl. My before grief and after grief social battery, completely different. And maybe that comes with age too. A lot of people say that I'm a grandma because I'm going to bed. I recognize my limits. I recognize my limits with being social. I recognize my limits with how much I allow people into my space. As I continue to talk about these things, understand that these are things you need to dig internally to find too. I wouldn't have known what my limits were unless I was like actively looking to understand what my limits were and feeling them and saying that and telling people. I wouldn't know how I was feeling if I was constantly trying to suppress it. So I'm able to understand how I feel even more because I don't suppress it. I think success and grief also looks like showing up for yourself in little ways. I have finally decided this past year that I need to go to the gym. This might not be your truth. And I know it's not everyone's truth, but it has changed me in ways that I just show up for myself every single day and allow for myself to work on myself to be better every single day. And that has completely changed my life, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. Like, even if showing up for yourself looks like going out on a walk every day or like I said, journaling every single night, like show up for yourself in a little tiny way and set a goal for that to be like maybe 2 times a week to start with. Like, I want to do this certain thing twice a week for myself. Like, as we step into the new year and as we step into success and grief or attempting to step towards success and grief, showing up for yourself is the most important. I talk about that often and I will continue to talk about it. But that's kind of one of my favorite things on the list is showing up for yourself in small ways. The last and final way that I've written down what success and grief looks like for me personally is not abandoning my healing because someone else is uncomfortable. Yeah, let's talk about it for a second. I think for a long time, I put myself to the side. I put my grief to the side. I put my emotions to the side. I put so many things to the side because I could tell how uncomfortable people were. Stop that and don't do that anymore. I think it's important for people to feel uncomfortable about grief. Think about it this way. The most uncomfortable I've ever been was watching my mom die. Okay, like, newsflash, that's the most uncomfortable I've been. So if I'm making you uncomfortable by talking about it, what a blessing that is for you. You know what I mean? And if they're that uncomfortable by your grief and you talking about your grief, tell them to hit me up because I have a great therapist that I can send them to. I abandoned my healing for a long time to ensure people were not uncomfortable around me. But now the people that were uncomfortable, that still might be, right? But like, they're now open to, I don't know, understanding. Hopefully they're here listening to this podcast, right? Like, I stopped abandoning my progression forward in my healing at the expense of other people's. You're putting your own self at risk to not moving forward for other people. And at some point, the buck has got to stop and you've got to take care of yourself first. And I really hope that this year is the year that you do that because it's an important part of healing. So yeah, that's what I would say for me success looks like in grief. All of the things that I'm talking about right now are my personal indicators that have helped me. So I want to make that very clear that like all the things that I'm telling you right now are how I have found success and what I do in the new year to help me move forward. And I'm just trying to bestow that onto you. Take it or leave it. Okay. But some practical indicators of success, like, did you learn how to comfort yourself? Did you accept support from someone? Did you rest more instead of punishing yourself and being go, go, go all the time? Did you forgive yourself for a setback? Did you put yourself first? There are practical indicators of success and grief. And that list that I just gave you were some practical indicators for me. But I encourage you to like sit with yourself and like, what are practical indicators for success for you? What are practical indicators and goals for you? How are you measuring progress in grief? And I think that's another important thing that I'll stop and pause on and talk a little bit more about is that like there is progression forward in grief, whether you believe it or not. And like I said a little bit earlier, it's something that you have to look for, but there has to be specifics that you find for yourself. So this list, did you comfort yourself? Did you let someone else support you? All of these things, like, what is it that I don't do that I really wish I had? For a long time, I'm sitting by myself for a long time. Well, Gabri, honestly, you're sitting by yourself for a long time because you're not letting others support you. You're constantly uncomfortable and you're constantly checking on everybody else's comfort because you don't even know how to comfort yourself. Like, what are these like blockers and stoppers that you have? And then come up with practical indicators for success around that. Like, did you rest instead of punishing yourself? You haven't slept in 4 days. Newsflash, you're punishing yourself. Get some rest. You don't have to be go, go, go. Take a second. Take a beat. Like, did you forgive yourself for a setback? I used to get so, like I just talked about, how I would sit on the couch to this day. I have weeks and weeks of time where I sit on the couch and I do nothing. For me, that's a setback. You're so good at going to the gym every day for yourself. You haven't gone in 2 weeks. Forgive yourself. You're learning as you progress these things forward. Like, think about these questions for yourself. And maybe at night when you reflect on the one good thing that you did for yourself, like reflect back on these questions. Which ways did I do these things for myself today? And if you didn't, that's a question within itself. We're going to step into a new section of this episode where we talk about preparing for the emotional landmines of a new year. I talk a lot about anticipatory grief, but when you step into a new year, there's a lot of anticipatory grief. I talked about at the beginning of this episode, stepping into a new year feels like walking further away from the last time you saw them. That comes with a lot. That comes with like memories of them becoming more fragile because it's like, I don't know, like with every year, I feel like you add so much more to your brain and so much more gets like let go from your brain as you get older and older. And that's tough because as I get further and further away, like her laugh is becoming more distant and her hugs are becoming more distant. And with every year, little pieces of her get lost. And that's really hard. And so I think there's this anticipatory grief when stepping into a new year because I know that more and more is going to get lost. Every piece, like I said, memories get more fragile and, you know, it gets more difficult, yeah, to like remember. The fear of forgetting gets more and more intense with every single year. Well, my therapist told me one time that at the end of the day, something that I'll never forget is how much I was loved by her, which I really loved. So I'll tell you that, like, it still sucks because I don't want to forget my mom's laugh. I don't want to forget the way she smelled. I don't want to forget those things, obviously. But there is some sense of comfort knowing that, like, I'm never going to forget how much she loved me. The new year kind of shows that, like, everyone's progression into the future. And I feel like for me, it's like a standstill to continuously carrying the grief into the next year. Something you carry for the rest of your life. I don't want to say like we're not projecting into the future, but I feel like a lot of the time people can like let go of the past and step into the future, right? Like, oh, you know what? I'm letting go of the past this year. We can't do that. That's not an option for us to step into the future and let go of the past. The thing about grief that's crazy, and as we like talk about like New Year's, is like we will every single year for the rest of our lives. We're carrying something from from our past into the future that we will never be able to let go. Well, you might. I don't know. I don't want to talk for everyone. For me, I'm never going to be able to let that go. I'm going to be walking into every single year with my grief. And I think it's interesting, like I said, like there's tools and there's ways to move forward with it. And there's all of these different things that like I think are really important that have really helped me forward in my healing. But it's like at the end of the day, the fact remains. I'm always going to be triggered by this. It's like you're going to have a constant trigger for the rest of your life. The last New Year I had with my mom, I was sick with COVID. I was like ill. I've talked about this in an episode before. Like I was so sick and it was like nearing the end of the sickness. So I could like see people again, but I was still not feeling good. And my mom texted me. I saw the text that was like, "Are you going to come downstairs and eat your grapes?" Which is hilarious. If you are any type of Latina or Latino, you know about the grapes. You eat a grape for every month of the year. You eat a grape for every month of the year for good luck, for every month. And my mom always used to throw an extra in there for extra good luck. And I went downstairs and I ate my grapes. And so we still eat our grapes. I still eat my grapes every year. But it's like I feel so happy for other people stepping into their new year, but at the same time, it's like I'm triggered. Now let's talk about building a sustainable plan for the new year. I think when we talk about a sustainable plan for the new year, like sustainable is the key word. Okay. I know it's going to shift and it's going to be different, but it is important that as you step towards healing, you do set a plan for yourself. I don't like to use the words goals because I think resolutions, I don't like goals. I don't like the words resolutions. I like the word plans because resolutions are created from pressure, not comparison. And I feel like resolutions kind of give the appearance that you're stepping into the new year as with like a blank slate instead of a grieving person. I don't want to say goal, I don't want to say resolution, I want to say plan. Like I said, introduce some micro goals. Check in with yourself every day. Like I told you, for me, every night before I go to bed, I write one good thing that happened that day. Write a letter to the loved one you lost at the start of every month. One of my favorite things is looking back on the letters that I wrote my mom the first year that I lost her, because I'm like, dang, like, Gabri, you've grown so much, dude. And it's a really cool, beautiful thing. So, like, set some micro goals for yourself. Like, plan to go to a support group consistently, or like maybe start seeing a therapist. Like a micro goal that I set the past year, like 4 years into it, was like, I'm going to try my best to go to the gym more consistently. I'm going to try my best to eat more consistently. I'm going to try my best to drink water more consistently. It's really just is about showing up for yourself in any way, setting a plan to show up for yourself, because that will lead you to more healing through this. I think an important practice with this as well is emotional maintenance. You can't wait for a breakdown or a meltdown to mend your heart. Maintenance makes that moment less violent and more attainable. Emotional stamina is important, and that's something that's built slowly. So like as you step into this year and as you have this goal in place and as you actually show up for yourself, what you're doing is you're building muscle to be able to handle those more violent grief moments with more ease. And that's kind of what I mean by healing. As I show up for myself, as I know one good thing that happens in the day, as I drink more water, as I do these smaller tasks with every single day, when I have the tsunami come that I was talking about before, even the tidal wave, when I have those moments come, all the work that I have been doing leading up to that moment for myself helps ease that. Those little ways to show up for yourself are just learning yourself so that you're more emotionally intelligent for when those big tsunamis come. So as you build this sustainable plan, listen to me give you full permission to adjust that plan. Okay? I think that's another thing with like even, my New Year's resolution, even with that, like people just think it's failure when they can't do it. No, like just adjust it in the way that you need to adjust it. Huh? Like, hello, just adjust it. This is your permission to adjust your plan. It's not a contract. You're not signing your life away. You're not agreeing to the Apple terms and conditions. Okay. Like, it's not failing if your plan changes. Okay. So, like, for example, I want to write in my journal every single day. Okay. That's a pretty hefty ask, especially within the first year of grief. Okay. So maybe I do it every day, but I don't hit that goal. Okay. Shift it to once a week. See if you can do once a week and set that goal. Okay. Okay, can't do once a week. Okay, change it to once a month. You know what I mean? So like adjust it. Try it out in the way that you want it to look like. And if it doesn't work, change it. That's another way to learn yourself and to know yourself, is adjusting your expectations of yourself. Hey, you know what? I thought I was going to be able to do this every single week, and I haven't been showing up for myself every single week. So let me try once a month now instead. And then if you can manage once a month, you start doing it consistently once a month. All right, let's try once a week. Why not? But I'm just saying, soften your plan, change your plan, restart your plan. The only person that cares about that is you. Last thing that I will talk about is what you need to leave behind in 2025. And for me personally, things that I have left behind in previous years past are things like, I should be over it by now. Things like, I'm too sensitive. Things like, people have it worse, so I shouldn't complain. Things like, I don't deserve joy because they're gone. Things like, this will never get better. Cut it out. We're leaving that behind. We're leaving it. I think we should also let go of costly coping mechanisms. Okay. Coping mechanisms that cost you elsewhere. Like some coping mechanisms helped you when you were in survival mode. For me, for example, I was in survival mode for the whole first year. Survival mode for me looked like sitting on my couch and doing absolutely nothing. And those coping mechanisms worked. They worked for me that year. But as I stepped into the next few years, sitting on the couch and doing nothing was no longer serving me. So that's kind of what I mean is that like the new year requires tools that help along your healing and they don't help along the numbness. Like I said, I would talk about this often. It's important to feel numb and you should. But I'm like, eventually, like the numbness has got to end. You know what I mean? So, like, some coping mechanisms helped you in one part of your grief where it's not going to help you in the next one. And that's really up to you to determine what that looks like. So, I encourage you to determine what that looks like for you. I think it's also important that you name what you want to carry forward from this past season of grief. You know what I mean? Like, name what things were really amazing for you. For me, for example, like, I found so much strength this past year. That's coming with me. I gained patience and perspective, and I gained such a beautiful connection with my mom's memory. All of those things, they're coming. I think it's really important to like name the things this past year that grief taught you that you want to bring with you, and then put them in your little pocket and bring them on in. Bring them with you. But you need to know what those things are. So I encourage you, name them. This past year has been so beautiful for me because it brought me all of you. And yeah, I don't know, gratitude is an understatement, but I will never forget 2025 because of all of you. So thank you so much for being here and for listening. Like, I want to leave you with a journal prompt, and that is, what is one thing I want to allow myself to do next year? Easy. It could be literally anything. I think it's important to note that like walking into the next year with grief doesn't mean that you failed this past year. And it's important to know that grief will always come with you, but there's ways for you to make it more palatable. And I hope that today you found just at least one of those ways. Thank you for making it through 2025. I'm really proud of you. And as we step into 2026, I invite you to step into this year with gentleness, with honesty, with love, and with your grief. But anyways, cheers to 2026. How grateful and how cool is it that we get to do it together? Love you, bye.